Sarah is coming, and I believe that Rudy is coming. Rudy's there, I see.
Full
I thought
house.
I talked to Rudy. Yeah, I talked to Rudy, so he must be here.
He's here.
You are on,
Excellent.
Madam President.
Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Oh.
Joe's got us all set up.
Joe's got us all set up and off to the races.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's March 4th, and this is the 5:30 p.m. regular session of the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish, as well as the acknowledgement of tribal land. And just to note, oh, actually, I'm sorry, I think I should, well, we can do it after this. We'll do a roll call just to make sure, because we do have a full board at this moment, which is great. Does anybody feel inspired to lead the pledge and the salute to the New Mexico flag?
I'll do Spanish.
Okay.
I'll do.
All right, please, Dr. Gonzalez.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el símbolo CIA de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas.
Thank you. And the acknowledgement of tribal land.
We acknowledge the original people of the land, the Tesuque Pueblo people, and other tribal nations, and ask them to walk with us today as we share and learn together.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonzalez and Dr. Garcia. We'll go ahead and, for the record, do a roll call. Vice President Garcia.
Here, Madam Chair.
Secretary Bozay.
Here.
Board Member Price.
Present.
And Dr. Gonzalez.
Here.
And the president is also here. So we do have a full board. Now on to approval of the agenda. Dr. Garcia, any needed changes?
No, Madam President, thank you.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, this is Rudy. Motion to approve the agenda.
Thank
I
you.
will second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Vice President Garcia, second from Secretary Bozay. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Secretary or Vice President Garcia?
Yes, Madam President.
Secretary Bozay?
Yeah.
Board Member Price?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And the president votes yes. We have approved the agenda. Moving on to Roman numeral 2 on our agenda, introduction of interpreter. Dr. Garcia.
Para servicio de traducción en español, marque 701-802-5152, número de acceso 427-7932#.
Thank you very much. Moving swiftly along to Roman numeral 3 on the agenda, our school board showcase. And tonight we start with, we have 3 school board showcase moments. And tonight we'll start with Ramirez Thomas Elementary. Dr. Garcia.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I would like to turn this over to April Pickrell, our music coordinator.
Good evening. Tonight I present the Ramirez Thomas Elementary Music Program with Director Miss Jong Young Hong. Ms. Hong's students have been working on learning how to count rhythms, read simple melodic notations, singing, dancing, and playing on instruments. This video will feature her students' asynchronous assignments with the finale of a fun performance video they created in May by collaborating with the kindergarten teachers and the EAs to show off their disco moves. Ms. Hong has served our district for 6 years and is board certified. We are so lucky to have such a wonderful teacher. Please enjoy the performance of elementary students.
Thank you, Ms. Pickerel.
Come on.
What do we do tonight? Those too many monsters. What do we do tonight? Pavo, ¿dónde están tus plumas? ¿Quién tiene una hoja? Yo tengo una hoja. I like the statue because it shows up the muscles of it. And then it makes me look strong. High, low, high. Number 3. High, low, high, low. Number 4. Dylan. Turkey. Ta, ta. Gobble, gobble. T, 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 T. Family. T, T, ta. I love my family. I love music.
I hope you enjoyed that performance. I thought it was super cute.
That was so much fun. Thank you very much. That was excellent.
Have a great night.
Thank you. We appreciate how well your screen sharing and all of that works. And as somebody said, it's amazing we have as few technical problems as we do. And so thanks to everybody who worked so hard to make that happen. And coming back, we now have Nava Elementary coding with Nava. And I've been looking forward to this one. Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I believe, is it Ms. Romero that's introducing this? Associate Superintendent Romero.
Good evening, President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia. I'm honored once again to welcome back Principal Ducharme and Mr. Rodriguez to share with us coding there at Nava. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you again for having us back and bearing with us on our technical difficulties from last time. Board President Noble, Dr. Garcia. So our team worked together with our DLC. And thank you, Neil, for having such a great team to help us through those difficulties. And Mr. Rodriguez will present for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Principal Ducharme.
Good evening, President Noble, Vice President Garcia, Superintendent Dr. Garcia, and members of the school board. Thank you for having us back. I'd like to thank the CSR 2025 initiative, along with our digital learning coach, Justine Chavez, for putting the videos together, and Ms. Romero for preparing our students. The 4 short Microbit Flipgrid videos you will see are examples of computer science, which students will include in a digital portfolio. The grades being represented this evening again are from our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade 21st Century Community Learning Center program, the Thunder Academy. In 2016, Microbits were developed in England with an initiative to get 1 million devices into their school system. That flowed over into the United States, and NAVA began exploring microbits in 2018. Students use a blocky language to program their microbit to do various tasks. And a microbit looks like this, and they can shake it. There's buttons to push on it. They connect it to their computer. And so what you'll see is the programming that the students did. So let me share what they've done.
Thank you very much.
No, that's not it. Okay. Let me go back. Okay, where did it go?
Good evening, President Noble, Vice President Garcia, School Board, and Superintendent Garcia. Today I'm going to show you what I did for my microbits. And so first this is the question, what is your favorite chili? And so here are the answers, the possible answers you might have. And so A is red, B is green, and A plus B is Christmas. And so let's say you pick A plus B, and it's going to say Feliz Navidad. So that's all I did. And here, if you pick red, it's Estilo Mexicanito. Then B is Estilo Nuevo Mexicano. So I hope you liked what I did with my microbit. And bye. Hope you have a nice day.
We had a collaboration between our robotics team, our music teacher, Miss Olano, and student council. Now present a student council member, Ian Reister, singing a song.
We are the students of Nava, where kids show respect. We're always growing and learning. Yes, that is correct. We know that manners matter. We use our kind words. We are the Thunderbird.
So we asked our music teacher, Miss Olano, to find the music notes for the song. Our computer team member, Rosa, created the code for the song. We hope you enjoy our collaboration. And here is the song. All right, so that is basically the song. I hope you enjoyed it again, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.
Good evening, President Noble, Vice President Garcia, School Board, and Superintendent Garcia. Today I'm going to show you what I have coded. So, first of all, I put on start, show string. Do you like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings? So when you push A, it shows a lightning bolt and then a heart, and then Harry Potter, and then when you push B, it shows a ring, and then a heart, and then Lord of the Rings. And when you push A and B, it shows a flashing long heart.
Good evening, President Noble, Vice President Garcia, board members, and Superintendent Garcia. This is my code, which on start I have press A for a message. And if you press A, it says, "Thank you for supporting NAVA," which I really appreciate. And then the other code, and then the other message, it says, "More messages if you click B or shake." And if you click B, it says, "Thank you for everything you did for kids at NAVA." And then if you press shake, it shows something. So we just gotta wait. So it codes in. We just gotta wait here. Right, so when you shake it, it shows a heart, and that is my code. That's my code, yeah. So this is my face. I couldn't put it there. I was trying, but this is my face, and yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm so glad he ended with his face. It's very nice to see. Are any of the students here tonight? I know we heard from them a couple weeks ago.
I'm not sure. Are any of the robotics kids here? Speak up if you guys are.
I'm here.
Sierra. There you go, Sierra.
Well done, Sierra. Congratulations. Do you want to tell us anything about your experience with the microbits? Did you like it?
Well, yeah, I did like it, but when I laughed, I was kind of nervous.
Mm.
But I didn't mean it like to laugh at you guys. I meant like I was kind of nervous.
Yeah, I don't think anybody felt like you were laughing at us. We all laugh when we're nervous sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, we're very glad you were here, and thank you for sharing your work with us. And please tell your classmates and everybody else who was working on some of this microbit stuff that we're really glad they're doing it and to keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Any final comments, Mr. Ducharme, Mr. Rodriguez?
Once again, thanks again for the opportunity. And really thank you, Dr. Ryan and Neil Weaver and everybody who works to help fund these kinds of projects so our kids are up to date and everything like that. With the CRS, we're just getting into some digital portfolios that our sixth graders are actually going to push out to their principals for next year and their teachers for next year to show why they're ready for middle school.
Excellent.
I want to comment on that. You know, I think I want to commend Principal Ducharme, and I think you were part of that first group, right? That was working on the digital portfolios and project-based learning and assessment for learning. And I'm so pleased that you guys have taken off with that. And I mean, the vision is that someday all kids will have a digital portfolio that by the time they graduate can demonstrate the attributes of the graduate and show that they're ready to go on to college or career. So way to go. That's really exciting. I want to see those. Thank you so much.
We'll forward them to you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thanks for coming back and making sure it worked. It was really great to see. We wouldn't have wanted to miss that. And thank you, Ms. Romero. Okay, moving on, under Roman numeral 3, we're on item C, Mandela International Magnet School, Connecting Cultures Through Global Scholars at Mandela. Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Matt. Excuse me, as I try to say a bunch of things at one time. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Associate Superintendent Larry Chavez will make the introduction.
Good evening, President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia. It's my great pleasure to introduce Principal of Mandela International Magnet School, Mr. Randy Grillo.
Thank you and good evening, Board President Noble, Vice President Garcia, Superintendent Garcia, and members of the board and members of the cabinet. It's with a lot of pride that I can introduce Sue Nichols. She's been in Santa Fe Public Schools for 27 years, and she is known within Santa Fe Public Schools as a phenomenal teacher. And she is piloting a Global Scholars program in her 7th grade individuals and societies class, which is history in the International Baccalaureate. And the program that she's going to walk us through just a little bit aligns perfectly with the mission of the International Baccalaureate, which is the IB aims to develop inquiring and knowledgeable and caring young people who seek to create a better world through intercultural understanding and respect. And so without further ado, here's Sue Nichols.
Thank you, Board President Noble, Superintendent Garcia, other members of the board, friends that I've known from around the district for many years. I noticed that Ms. Kayak is here, and she actually came in and helped work one day in the classroom on this program. So I feel very lucky in this year, out of all the years that I've taught when we're in remote learning, to be able to pilot this program, because it does merge so perfectly with our curriculum and with the digital platform. So I'm going to share my screen. I will have to tell you, those other presentations were tough acts to follow, especially those kids singing. That gets me every time. So.
But you saw the Running Man, right?
Yeah. And I am not a technology teacher, so mine is not quite as jazzy as all that. So let's see. Maybe just a heads up if you can see that presentation.
We can see it, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So why Global Scholars? I said this year, out of all the years when we are in remote learning and students' worlds have become, they're very isolated at home. Global Scholars really opens up the world to them, and they can make connections with peers from all around the world. We collaborate with students in these countries. Some are in the United States, but many from all over the world. And students participate in discussion boards and digital projects. And they learn the perspectives of what is happening in these other cities around the world. They're also learning key IB concepts and gaining relevant knowledge and skills. Even though Global Scholars wasn't written as an IB curriculum, the key concepts really, really perfectly intersect. And this year we are studying global and cultural interactions, sustainability, consumption, systems thinking, and equity and access to resources. And here is, I hope this will work.
It is so important for students to communicate with other people. At a young age, we have been given an opportunity to learn about and gain new perspectives. I think it is crucial to our learning and our development.
Being in the Global Scholars Program has helped me develop an understanding of the things that go on other than where I live. Participating in this program has also helped me with my social skills because I am able to talk with kids my age from all over the world on a digital platform.
Unfortunately, this student couldn't record her voice on theirs. She tried and tried.
Participating in Global Scholars has been important because I'm collaborating with multinational peers and learning new perspectives, while also finding ways to make the world a better place.
And there's a few text testimonials. Okay.
It is so important for students to communicate.
Sorry. So students will participate in discussion boards that look like this. This was a discussion board from the beginning of the year where they were introducing themselves. And then they get to reply to each other. And you'll see over on this side, on the left-hand side of the discussion board, just how it operates, some of the cities that they have been able to connect with. I have 3 classes of individuals and societies, and so each one works within a different collaboration. At the end of each unit of study, the students create digital projects. And because of time constraints tonight, I want to just give you a little snapshot, maybe not play the whole thing, but when they introduced each collaboration created an Adobe Spark presentation to introduce our school and our city to the other schools in the collaboration. And so then they also, within the discussion board, got to watch videos and Google slide presentations from the other cities in our collaboration. In Unit 2, students did a photo journal on an everyday consumption action that they took. And I have one example. We use Book Creator. So students are learning different technology platforms and apps that we're using to create these digital projects. And so they talked about their consumption. They talked about some of the effects of the consumption, the waste, the action they took. Some of them measured it very scientifically. They talked about the action and then an idea they had to have a bigger impact. Okay, and then we're in Unit 3 of the 5-unit program. And so in this past unit, they created a community guide. And this group, they could create it on any system, transportation systems. That's what we worked with Miss Kayak a little bit on figuring out some of the transportation systems. It could be the water system like this one here, or even thrift stores and the retail system in Santa Fe. And so they were tasked with learning about it, investigating, coming up with a map, and discussing how it's accessed by people and how they could improve the access and sustainability of the system. Oops. Well, and I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share this important program and my students learning. I am building out a Google site on the Mandela homepage, so you can take a look at that if you want more information about it. But I really, really, really appreciate the opportunity to pilot this program this year.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Mr. Griot, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just closing thoughts. And Sue and I have talked over the years, over this year, but I am totally convinced that we're changing some students' lives with this collaboration. And just thinking of sharing what Santa Fe is with somebody in Mumbai, and what kind of connections that creates in a student's brain, and where their curiosity goes. I'd be very curious to trace these students 12 to 15 years out in the future. So I'm really proud of Ms. Nichols for taking on, she took on a new school this year without ever having set foot in the building. And then she took on a whole new project. And so it's been a real challenge, but she's a real champ. So
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia.
President, members of the board, I'm just so proud of you guys. This offer was made to all of our high schools, and I'm so proud that Mandela took us up on it. And I'm hoping that there might be some sharing with other departments at the other high schools, because I just think of how it opens up your world in such amazing ways. And you're right, Principal Grillo, that the impact of this is truly life-changing. And I hope that, you'll be able to see former students come back maybe to a public forum and talk about how this project really did change their life's trajectory. And the world's getting smaller all the time. And so it's just great to see these wonderful connections. And thank you for taking this on, Ms. Nichols. You're brave and you're a trailblazer. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing that with us. Okay, moving along, Roman numeral 4 on our agenda is the union update. And I believe I did see Ms. Mayer, yes. Welcome, Ms. Mayer, President of NEA Santa Fe.
Thank you, President Noble, school board members, Dr. Garcia. I just want to emphasize how exceptional I think our presentation was this evening, in terms of our students' progress, and our certainly our educators and our principals taking on challenges that are moving our kids forward. I don't see any learning loss when I look at these students, challenging themselves with microbits and learning different platforms to communicate to kids worldwide, create and expand their literacy skills by using rhythm and music. And then, of course, their presentations, which are just remarkable. And their level of engagement with their community is ongoing. And I just have to commend our district for making sure that we are, using all of our resources in terms of technology to push out instructional programming that is phenomenal. And I really just commend our district, our employees and our students and their families for embracing technology and pushing forward learning gains in all these areas. So I think we need to put a period at all those concerns about learning loss and say, these are our learning gains, and we're proud of our students, and we're proud of our faculty and our district for making these gains. And I'm also very proud to be representing the NEA membership as their president. So I'm going to continue my statement by reading the joint press release that was released today. However, I do want you to understand that this MOU was created a few weeks ago, and we had been working towards, re-entry and this collaborative re-entry program since, frankly, the summer. So the Santa Fe Public Schools and the National Education Association of Santa Fe would like to reiterate that in an MOU, or a Memorandum of Understanding, we have agreed that teachers and staff will be required to return to work in person once individual employees have been vaccinated for COVID-19 or have had the opportunity to be vaccinated during the 1B vaccination phase. No employee will be required to get a vaccination. Only teachers and staff who currently have an accommodation to work from home will not be required to return to in-person teaching for the remainder of the 2020-2021 school year. After the 1B vaccination phase, all employees, except those with accommodations, will be required to return to work in person. Employees who do not wish to be vaccinated are expected to return to work as soon as possible. All public education department reentry guidelines will be followed. So the superintendent made this comment and I would like to read it for her, although she can certainly expound on it later if she'd like to. Our schools have been ready to reopen since the beginning of the school year. Our hurdle to bringing students back has been access to vaccinations. I'm greatly encouraged with the federal prioritization of educational employees, and I continue to urge the state of New Mexico to follow suit. We all want to get our students back on campus as soon as possible. That's from Superintendent Dr. Veronica Garcia. And then I commented that 99% of our educators have indicated their willingness to get vaccinated, and we are excited and at being prioritized. We look forward to receiving the vaccination and getting back into the classroom with our students. So if you have any questions about that, or if you'd like to ask Dr. Garcia for her comments, that's the end of my update.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mayer. Good stuff. We appreciate you being here. Okay, moving along on our agenda, we have arrived at Roman numeral 5, public forum. Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Our public information officer, Cody Donarski, will be hosting public forum this evening. Are you ready, Mr. Donarski?
Good evening, board president, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Garcia. There are 9 people signed up for public comment tonight. Rules for public forum. Please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. No sharing of time. Self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. I will give you a 30-second warning when your time is almost up. Public commentary and dialogue will be allowed only during public forum, not throughout the meeting. Please search for answers on common ground. You may speak on any topic, whether it is on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board may discuss your issue during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda. Please do not discuss employee matters which may result in disciplinary action. Instead, notify the employee's supervisor, the Human Resources Department, or the superintendent. This first comment is from Liz Sharp. Let me just pull up my timer. First, I would like to thank everyone for their efforts at getting our children back into the schools. I realize that organizing the logistics has been very difficult. Even though my 9th grader is doing remote learning at the high school, he is a much happier kid. He enjoyed being able to see friends during the day, and the opportunity to play soccer has made this year, so thank you. As teachers receive their vaccinations, I hope more will be willing to return. It is not too late in the year to utilize a full hybrid model that was promised at the beginning of the school year. I have twin preschoolers who have severe speech delays. It has been an extremely difficult year to meet their IEP requirements and speech needs. While they love their speech therapists, I am seeing some serious screen fatigue more and more to where they don't even want to look at him through the screen. We have 3 months left in the school year and 6 months left to get them ready for kindergarten. They would really benefit greatly if they were in-person learning for the last 3 months of the year, and I plead with administrators to make this happen. As a former teacher in a different state, I have been in constant communication with colleagues who have been back to school full-time since August. Every single one of them have reported to me that they have not had any big outbreak incidences and they feel completely safe in their classrooms and schools. I urge our school administrators, board members, union members, and teachers to look at the example of all the states who have made a full return and see what is working for them. This can be done safely. It's appalling to me that it has taken New Mexico this long to return to school, but if we follow the CDC and all the scientific data, I feel confident that SFPS can do better moving forward so that we can be ready for a full return. Thank you. This next one is from Kim Bannerman. Dear SFPS, okay, reset this. Dear SFPS board members and Superintendent Garcia, my name is Kim Bannerman and I am the parent of a third grade student and kindergartner at El Dorado Community School. I am writing to urge the school board to take action to require return to classroom this year in hybrid and to provide clear guidance as to full in-person school starting in August. I am a product of Santa Fe Public Schools and my mother taught special education in Santa Fe's public school for 30 years. Additionally, despite working full-time myself, I have spent countless hours raising over $30,000 for El Dorado's PTA because I understand the need for all of us to support our schools, teachers, and public education in general. But now I am having to consider either relocating out of state or pursuing private school for my daughters in the fall because nearly no teachers volunteered to return at El Dorado. Online learning is failing them, and there has been no indication that the board or superintendent is pursuing full return to in-person learning in August. I hope you are prepared to alienate very supportive families and parents to lose children to private schools or movement out of state if you continue to fail to provide a true in-person return to school, which is not what you are providing most children in Santa Fe now. The position of the teachers union of only volunteer return to the classroom and the recently publicized surveys of teachers showing that a majority will not return to in-person school until all children are vaccinated is scientifically unfounded and completely fails our children. As the daughter of a teacher, I value the unions. I stood on picket lines with my mom in the 1980s, arguing for better pay, but enough is enough. I've written the governor urging teacher priority for vaccinations. I hope that happens. I want teachers safe and I understand the need for safety precautions, but it's clear that in-person learning can be done safely today. I will not berate you with the science. You can all read the studies, hear the press conferences from the CDC, Dr. Fauci, the governor, and the president all urging return to in-person learning. You should also all understand the New Mexico constitutional mandate, which you all carry out for the Santa Fe students, which requires the state to establish and maintain a uniform system of free public education sufficient for the education of and open to all the children of school age in this state. Santa Fe's children are not being offered a uniform system of education compared to other students in the state who are being offered hybrid spots. Continued online education is also not sufficient as required by the Constitution. I am tired of hearing from the board and the union that Santa Fe students are being offered high quality education online. I do not dismiss the work teachers have put into making online learning work. I have seen how hard my daughter's teachers have worked and I am nothing but appreciative for them. That said, the studies are clear. Online is not equal to in-person learning, and I see that daily with my girls, along with the social and mental toll it has taken on them. Santa Fe's children are at a distinct disadvantage compared to students at the other school districts in the state with more hybrid spots, students at open charter schools, students at open private schools, and students in the state surrounding New Mexico who are in person. I request the board to take action on the following: provide more hybrid spots in the school year, and that is 3 minutes. This next one is from Andrea Schaeffer. I will begin by thanking all the teachers who have volunteered to re-enter the classroom. Additionally, I realize that some teachers are unable to return due to health concerns or caretaking duties, and yet continue to work hard to bring the most engaging material they can to the limited format of online school. I want these teachers to know that their work is appreciated. Yes, we are in a pandemic involving a virus that will be around for years. Safety is never a guarantee in a pandemic, but in-person education for children is essential and cannot be denied for students for weeks, months, or unimaginably years. My husband has been working as a first responder paramedic, and fortunately for the community has been showing up in person and taking care of the sick, injured, and elderly, regardless of their COVID status. I've given hundreds of massages over the past year. It has baffled and angered me that massage has been deemed and more essential than in-person instruction. Please explain to me how it is acceptable for our children to come home alone, watching a PE class recorded from a lakeside in another state, while one parent works on the front line of a pandemic and the other parent is giving massages. Our community has its priorities upside down. Cities such as Montreal, Toronto, and Berlin have closed schools last and opened them first. I am ashamed of everyone in our country and possibly worst of all, ashamed of New Mexico. My friends and family in other states are reporting back to me the success of in-person schooling for their kids. I will even compromise here and will say that after every teacher in the district has been offered the vaccine, Santa Fe Public Schools needs to open fully in person. UCSF infectious disease specialist, Dr. Monica Gandhi, states that if the teachers and everyone who would like a vaccine area are all vaccinated, the biology should stay. There should be no more distancing, no more masks, and no more mass testing for teachers. She continues by saying that school reopening in the fall could hinge more on whether districts are dealing with politics rather than a pandemic. I ask, what are we dealing here in Santa Fe? At this point, now that new cases are single digit in a county with more than 150,000 people, it appears to be politics. At first, closing schools and switching to online was an understandable experiment while we were waiting to see what would happen with COVID. Two results have surfaced. First, the educational side of the experiment failed. For the majority of students in New Mexico, online schooling has meant apathy, depression, and withdrawal and absence. And if we're to be honest with ourselves, true education and development is not happening for any students, whether they are getting A's, B's, or F's. Secondly, we have gained the science to know with confidence how to conduct in-person instruction without spread occurring within the school. We must follow the current science, follow the safety measure proven around the world to protect teachers and students, and as adults, provide our students and children with what they do. 3 minutes. This one is from Ashley Marquez. To whom it may concern, the CDC recommends full in-person learning in those counties that report fewer than 50 new cases per 100,000 people in a week and a 7-day positivity rate less than 8%. Santa Fe County meets both of these criteria. I had a hard time understanding why some fully vaccinated teachers were not returning to school, and we have the data showing that schools are not super spreader facilities. Now with this information from the CDC, I'm really struggling to understand how teachers in the community are not volunteering to be in the classroom with our children. All arrays of essential workers have been working throughout the pandemic without vaccinations, and as community members have sacrificed to keep our lives moving forward. As a nurse, I have worked throughout the pandemic with COVID patients, without vaccination, without PPE at times, because that's my job. That's what was required of me. That's what I signed up for. It was and still continues to be difficult. What is the impediment at this point? I know parents are considering other schools and considering moving out of New Mexico in order for their kids to return to the classroom. At first, I thought this was extreme, but now I'm starting to understand this position and have considered switching schools for the fall as well. A very concerned SFPS parent, Ashley Marquez. This one is from Rachel Joyce. What are you doing to meet special learning needs right now? For instance, dyslexia screening and support. We haven't been able to access dyslexia screening and support during the pandemic. Shouldn't this be widely available? Why isn't it? Kids, especially in their early years, risk falling even more behind if they cannot access the extra screening and support they need in a timely manner. What are you going to change going forward to make sure that all the early year kids who need extra screening and support actually get it? This one is from Martha Jackson. I am extremely heartened by the letter that a friend shared with me just now about the MOU between SFPS and the teachers union. Along with the modest reopening of Santa Fe schools that has happened over the last couple of weeks, it appears we are finally moving in the right direction. Thus far, the union appears to be adhering to an unidentified dogma that prevents their belief in science of reopening schools. It is no different from climate change deniers. It is no different from anti-vaxxers. It is no different from anti-maskers. Is science real or not? Do we trust experts or not? If not, this is an issue that needs to be addressed and would affect all kinds of policies in our system. While encouraged by today's announcement, it's important to note that the way SFPS is proceeding in line with the demands from the union is not in line with the data available and the recommendations of the CDC. Our superintendent and school board are held captive by this anti-science group. So far, teachers have fought for teachers. Teachers unions have fought for teachers. The school board has fought for teachers. The superintendent has fought for teachers. No one is fighting for the kids. Families are now pushing for what is best for the kids according to science and experts. These families are among your constituents. The anemic approach to the superintendent and board is causing a rift in our district because you are unwilling to push the unions. Parents have had to take that role because nobody is fighting for our kids. Again, based on science, parents have had to step up and do that, creating a situation where parents and teachers are opposed. This is destroying our communities. Not only are families leaving the state, not only are families opting for private schools, families remaining in the public school face hostility and resentment from teachers and vice versa. This is the role of the system, the superintendent and board, to shield these parties and take on that uncomfortable role. This should never have been a fight that families had to take up. Please do better for the sake of our families, our teachers, and our communities. There are still many decisions to be made, and there are more negotiating to become. What will school life look in the fall? Will SFPS rely on the science and data provided by doctors and experts at the CDC? Policy must be based on data. To our board members, please be champions of science. Please base our policy on science. Thank you to the reader. This next one is from Samantha Shenya. Since the district has its own pharmacy license, does the district plan to get in contact with the administration to secure vaccines directly for staff and teachers? This next one is from Oswaldo. School board members, who responds to the state purchasing about air purification systems for SFPS? We receive information from the state that we have been awarded. Our technology does not require filtration systems. You don't need to spend $100 for every filter every 6 months. Please let us know if we can make a demonstration to the schools about our technology. This last comment is from Rhonda Crespo. My name is Rhonda Crespo, and I am the director of the Institute for Computing and Research. We were featured in the New Mexican last Sunday and would like to thank Dr. Tom Mason for all the scientists do to mentor students in Santa Fe to do real research work. My question is, what will the SFPS board do to help with this effort from its side? Can SFPS please allocate some teacher time with some of the programs we have, like making writing an integral part of our research work? We look forward to continued collaboration. Thank you for your consideration. And that is the end of public forum for tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Donarski. As ever, flawless reading. Okay, and just to ask if we could again be emailed. I know a bunch of the board members got a number of those emails, but just as some of them were cut off, it would be great to be sent copies of those so we can read the full comments. Okay, and we will be talking more about re-entry probably during the superintendent's announcements. And as we don't generally respond specifically in meetings to comments from public forum, we'll go ahead and move on, but I imagine we will all discuss re-entry during the superintendent announcements. But for now, we're moving on to Roman numeral 6, our presentation from Los Alamos National Laboratory. And I believe we are honored to have the director of Los Alamos National Laboratory here. Is that correct, Dr. Garcia?
Madam
Did you
President,
take a drink?
I just took a drink of tea. Yes, we are fortunate to have Dr. Tom Mason with us this evening. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
I lost my screen. I can hear all of you, but I can't see anything. So we're so fortunate to have him here this evening. And so without further ado, I present to you Dr. Tom Mason.
Welcome, Dr. Mason. We're very glad to have you. No, we can't hear you. It doesn't look like you're muted.
How about now?
Yes, we can now hear you.
Okay, good. So that's the first step. I'm afraid I don't have any videos, so I can't quite match up to the earlier presentations, although I was pleased to see all those kids coding, because as you'll hear, we're looking for bright minds. And if it's okay, I'm going to share, I'm going to try and share, let's see, something. Where is it here?
While you're looking, Dr. Mason, Madam President, if I may,
please.
We have state champion coders in the Santa Fe Public Schools on various years, and kids coding all the way from the early grades all the way through high school. It's quite phenomenal to see.
Okay, let's see. I'm getting a security warning here. Bear with me. Zoom isn't our usual thing, so I think I have to set some permissions.
And if I'm not mistaken, because I am married to a Los Alamos National Lab scientist, Zoom is Chinese, which is why the lab does not do Zoom generally.
Yeah, there's
it's
a
all
security
WebEx.
rule. Okay, it's saying I have to quit and reopen to enable the sharing. So if it'll probably take me 30 seconds to exit and leave, and then I should be able to share the presentation.
Okay, we'll wait for you. All those security checks for Los Alamos National Labs. And I suppose somebody's going to have to watch for Dr. Mason as he comes back, because we'll have to promote him as a panelist again.
Madam President, it'll probably be Alma or Joe, because I don't have that capability.
There he is.
There, is he back?
Yep, I let him in. Sorry, I was trying to bring up my screen with my touchpad. My fingers are a little too stubby.
This is looking a lot more promising.
This is looking very promising. We have sound and vision.
Okay, let's see. View full screen mode. All right, with any luck, you can see a beautiful picture of the vistas of northern New Mexico.
We can, in fact.
All right, great. Well, sorry for the delays, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you a little bit of a laboratory update. And President, board member, Superintendent Garcia, also extend my thanks to the Santa Fe Public Schools for the partnership, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on at the lab and how they intersect with the education system. So I'm just going to quickly give you the outline here, some highlights, what we've been working on with the community, some exciting news recently about the return of Los Alamos to Santa Fe after decades of absence, and what all of that means in terms of the economy. I'll say a little bit about COVID-19 response, because just as the schools have been grappling with the challenges of working in a COVID environment, so have we, and then a little bit about what the future might hold. All right, so just a couple highlights from the lab. We continue to do really important and exciting work supporting the nation's security. For example, providing payloads for the launches of spacecraft that monitor the globe to make sure that countries are staying compliant with their nuclear treaty commitments. Modeling the climate to understand how fresh water, for example, can put global climate at risk as ice bodies melt in the north and in the south. Really exciting thing that I think everyone has probably heard of was the successful landing in February of the Perseverance rover. Maybe less well understood is the role that the laboratory played in both providing the power for the rover through the plutonium heat source, which is the nuclear battery in the back of it, and also providing some of the scientific instrumentation. The top of that mast, which is kind of the head of the rover, has a laser that is used to zap rocks and study their composition. And in fact, the upgraded version of that is on the new rover. We had one previously called the ChemCam, and now it's got a Super Cam, which is going to tell us not just about what the constituents are, but what their chemistry is. So we've got a group of really excited people who will be actually driving that thing around sort of from mission control. You see a picture of some employees receiving vaccines. We have begun the distribution of vaccines as what's called a...
Sorry, Dr. Mason. We're still seeing that opening slide. Have you advanced?
Oh, let's see. Sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front. Let's see. Resume share. Let's try that. Did that work?
Is it possible, Madam President and Dr. Mason, Dr. Ryan, if he were to just email the presentation, then you could advance the slides for him? Or Dr. Weaver, and anybody, let Mr. Chavez. Mr. Chavez, could you do that for him?
I sure can if they send it to me.
You want to just give him your email address and he could just email it to you and then you can show it?
Well, now it's moved along.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Can you see it changing now?
Yes, you're changing it. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I just won't go full screen since this seems to work, and I think you can see what I've got there. So, all right. So we've been actively beginning the process of vaccinating our employees following the state guidelines. So we started out with our occupational medicine. You see someone in the picture administering a vaccine, collecting tests. There are frontline medical workers. More recently, we've been focused based on, health conditions and so forth. So it's under the auspices of the state of New Mexico guidelines. One of our researchers was recognized with a prestigious award, and we're also developing software to model trauma and brain injuries. So those are just a couple of quick highlights. I noted that you started your meeting with the students that are the reason you have a school system, and I like to start my discussion with some of the science that's the reason that we have a lab. Okay, so let's see. So first off, how we're engaging with the Santa Fe Public Schools. We have an employee scholarship fund that is funded through contributions from our staff from payroll deductions. And in 2020, 17 scholarships totaling $117,000 were awarded to Santa Fe Public School students. You see a picture there of one of the happy recipients that's going to be supported to get a degree in electrical engineering at UNM. So that's something. It's really not the lab; it's the laboratory staff who provide the funds for that, and it's administered through the Lannel Foundation. Our employees have been participating in career fairs, volunteering in hours of code. So again, not the lab. This is the employees giving of their time in areas that they're passionate about. We've also been providing financial support for education in children in Santa Fe. Funding to communities and schools, funding for STEM activities. Obviously, that's the part of the curriculum that we get most excited about, although actually we need all skills across the full range. We've also been providing support to the court-appointed special advocates in the First Judicial District. Battelle is one of the parent companies of Triad, the company that manages the lab, and it's funding the school system for access to Learning Blade, which is a toolbox of online STEM lessons, which obviously is particularly important in the current environment. In terms of broader community activities, we've been trying to add value where we can. Our employees donated $2.8 million in the recent giving campaign that wrapped up in December. And we actually provide a match for that corporately. And one of the things that we did a couple of years ago was change our match formula to say that we would provide matches only to nonprofits that are within the counties in which our staff live. And that has had the impact of both increasing our contributions corporately to those organizations, but also our employees are generally pretty smart, and we're able to figure out that if they directed their charitable contributions to nonprofits in the region, that they would get more bang for the buck because we'd been matching it. So it's increased the support kind of in two ways. We've had to respond to the COVID needs in the community, recognizing the tremendous hardship and dislocation that's been created, and adapt some of our giving, and including things like a fundraising drive for the food depot, a substantial increase over our prior donations, recognizing the fact that the needs have been substantial, as well as engaging in blood drives. And in fact, now 10% of all the blood donated in northern New Mexico comes through those blood drives. We've also been able this year in FY21 to increase our community commitment. And you see in the picture some of that community commitment from last year. It was $2 million. So as I said, we were able to increase it this year to 2.5. And also taking advantage of the fact that we had to harvest a lot of wood as part of our efforts to reduce wildfire risks. We had a lot of heavy winds a while back that took down a lot of trees, and we'd rather that was firewood to warm homes instead of firewood to feed wildfires, and we're able to work with the local tribal communities to make that wood available. In terms of educational partnerships, one of the things we've been very focused on is developing pipeline programs that serve to address critical skills needs that we have, given our growing workforce, with some of the educational institutions in the region around us. The first one of these was the radiation protection program with Northern New Mexico College. We're already starting to see students graduate from that program, be hired into the lab. More recently, we stood up an engineering machining degree with Santa Fe Community College that includes internship at the lab, and that's a newer program, so we haven't yet seen the graduates come out the other end, but I have every reason to expect it will be just as successful as the radiation protection program. We've also established a program to prepare interested students for craft trades with the New Mexico Building and Construction Trades. This started out at Taos and Cuesta high schools. I'll say a little bit about our aspirations with the Santa Fe system on that one. And finally, we've been working with UNM Los Alamos for a mechanical engineering degree. This is a program whereby students who already have an associate's degree who are employed at the lab can get the additional coursework needed to turn that two-year associate's degree into a full-blown four-year mechanical engineering degree through the use of distance learning between UNMLA and the main campus in Albuquerque. So I mentioned that we had an announcement a short while ago about our return to Santa Fe with the leasing of a downtown building that was in the process of becoming vacant, actually as a consequence of COVID. And so this will be front door for the lab in Santa Fe. And in fact, it will include on the ground floor something we're calling the Dorothy McKibben Conference Center, kind of in honor of Dorothy McKibben, who ran the now famous Los Alamos office that was at 109 East Palace. You can still see the historical PELAC if you walk past it. This was the place where staff who'd been told, or prospective staff who'd been told, take the train to Lamy. We're not telling you where you're going. They were then delivered to this office where Dorothy McKibben would tell them, okay, your journey is not over. You've got a rather bumpy ride up the hill ahead of you. And in fact, she ran that office until it was closed in 1963. So as I said, this new office will serve as kind of that front door for us as well. And the Dorothy McKibben Conference Center will be wonderful once we get past COVID for hosting scientific conferences. We're actually looking forward to hosting educators as part of our outreach in areas like STEM education. There's some really good facilities there for teacher professional development. And of course, we'll have laboratory employees who will be working out of those offices and will hopefully be spending their time in the city, paying taxes on their purchases, eating in local restaurants at lunchtime and so forth. Of course, we're already in Santa Fe. We have almost 3,000 employees who live in Santa Fe or Santa Fe County. but this will give us a physical presence. And the reason, of course, that we're doing that is we need the space because we've been growing. So this gives a little bit of a sense of that. For the current fiscal year, our funding is now up to about $3.7 billion. This is a significant increase that's been occurring over the past years, and in fact, a big step up in the current fiscal year. That translates into impact in the economy in several ways. The largest by far is the payroll salaries, about $1.3 billion last year, the fiscal year that ended at the end of September. And that's spread across predominantly 5 counties in northern New Mexico. Obviously Los Alamos County, but in fact, most of our employees live outside of Los Alamos County in Rio Arriba, in Santa Fe County, in Sandoval County, and in Bernalillo County. We also contract a lot with businesses, particularly small businesses. We awarded $486 million to New Mexico businesses. And in fact, we awarded $413 million to small businesses. And of course, they're employing people, again, across the region. We're taxpayers. We pay New Mexico gross receipts tax. And for the first time in 2020, that exceeded $100 million. So if you add all that up, it translates into about 24,000 jobs that are directly or indirectly created in the state. And as I said, we have close to 4,000 employees living in Santa Fe County. It's about 2,900. Because of that growth in the budgets, we've been hiring over 1,000 people a year. About half of them were hired to replace people who are just retiring. But the other half were hired because we're growing. And of those hires in FY19, 75% of them came from northern New Mexico. And I think that is evidence of the value that we get from investing in these educational pipeline programs. It allows us to grow our own in this region so that students who graduate, whether it's from public school system, the community colleges, or the four-year colleges, can find good jobs in the communities in which they grew up. In terms of COVID and our response, as difficult as it's been, we're learning. We've had to do things like going to staggered shifts to spread out the people who have to come on site because their work can't be done remotely. But the majority of our staff, of order 70%, have been working remotely, teleworking. We've all grown familiar with trying to do these things with Zoom, although even you wouldn't have guessed that from how difficult it was for me to share the presentation, but I'm getting better at it. We've been trying to be flexible, recognizing that many of our employees who are teleworking also have kids at home. And so they're having to juggle those responsibilities, and it can be very challenging. So we tried to be as flexible as we can in terms of, allowing them, the time in the way that fits their needs to get things done. We've stood up our own in-house capability for testing. We can test 200 employees a day. That's proven very helpful in terms of managing, including being able to do random testing. So that we can pick up people who don't even realize that they're sick. And as I said, we're more recently starting to administer vaccines in accordance with the New Mexico state guidelines for prioritization. We've also been trying to use our scientific tools to address the pandemic. We've had an infectious diseases modeling group since the 70s because of the threat that things like COVID and previously things like Ebola and Zika and so forth can pose from a national security point of view. In fact, we've been working closely with the state of New Mexico so that they can have the best scientific data available to inform their decision making. So we're not making any decisions for them, but we do want to make sure they make their decisions based on a good understanding of the progression of the pandemic. We were funded to the tune of about $18 million last year as part of the national legislation to respond to the virus, and that's what supported some of this work through something called the National Virtual Biotechnology Lab, working with other DOE labs. So in terms of the vision for the future, I think we're expecting to continue to grow, continue to hire. We have a lot of work ahead of us to modernize the laboratory site. There's a lot of infrastructure that served its nation well, but it really dates back to the post-war Cold War era. and that infrastructure needs to be either upgraded or torn down and replaced with more modern infrastructure. And of course, the national needs for R&D really remain a bipartisan priority. In terms of the challenges ahead, our challenge right now is to safely transition to a post-COVID environment. We are not there yet, although we're very excited about the prospect of vaccines. The risk is still with us. It's going to take a while before we get to that point where we can get back to truly normal. We've got high expectations around the budget increases, and the new administration is signaling an interest in expanded activities in some areas like climate research, renewable energy, and biosciences. And it's going to be important for us to continue to work well with the state, local officials, and the community. I wanted to say just a little bit, I mentioned in passing in the presentation that we had stood up an activity initially with Taos Cuesta High School aimed at developing the pipeline for the skilled crafts. And this is something called the multi-core craft curriculum. And this is something that we're now looking forward to expanding the pilot activity from the 20 students initially at Taos Cuesta to another 30 students enrolled with the Santa Fe Public Schools. And the reason behind it is I mentioned the need for infrastructure investments and building new facilities and equipping and improving the existing facilities. And this means we really have a need for the skilled crafts. And we've been working in partnership with the New Mexico Building and Construction Trades Council, who've endorsed this curriculum that was developed by the North America's Building Trades Union, and identifying instructors who can be enrolled in the training. And then the building trades are actually providing funding for licenses, and we will be providing seed money for the instructors. So when students go into this program, when they complete it successfully and they turn 18, they're actually eligible to transition into an apprenticeship program with the relevant union. We're also working with Santa Fe Community College to align this multi-core craft curriculum with the Santa Fe Community College degree program, so that there's sort of a dual pathways, either into the apprenticeship, into the job, or onto Santa Fe Community College to even increase the educational attainment that's associated with it. So I'd like to thank the schools for working with us on that. I think it's something that will bear fruit in the future as we continue to grow and continue to need those skilled craft to support our missions. So with that, I will stop, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And that's really great to hear about the trades. A lot of people have been working to make that connection really strong for a long time. And it's great to know that we finally have it working with the Santa Fe Public Schools.
Well, and I think, this is an area where sometimes as a society, I think we undervalue the skills in hands-on work. And, obviously as a lab, we're really excited about kids who code and kids who want to do science, but we need the full breadth of skills. And in fact, these are very good jobs, that pay good wages. And we need to communicate that better to students, because there's multiple different ways to impact on laboratory missions.
Yes, I don't think we don't value them at the Santa Fe Public Schools, but it's a good point. There are good jobs, good wages, and incredibly important. And, really appreciate your presentation. There's a lot in it. Modernizing the site is certainly a big one, and it's been a lot of years, and got to build a lot of things to upgrade it and keep going. Are there questions from the board?
Madam President, this is Rudy. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
Not a question, just a couple of comments. Dr. Great presentation, as you did very well. And it's one thing just to thank the laboratory for working with our schools and for our younger generation. Because as you mentioned, that the budget up there is going to increase by so much just to redo the entire laboratory. And also there's jobs that are needed up there. And I can remember years ago when the great speaker Ben Lohan was actually Speaker of the House of Representatives, and Jeanette Wallace was actually state representative, and her son actually worked up in the laboratory, and the state of New Mexico actually worked in regards to the GRT tax, which actually helped out the entire state of New Mexico, especially the 3 or 4 counties in that area. And sometimes people don't realize that the laboratory up there is actually an economic engine to northern New Mexico. There are so many individuals that live throughout the state, Albuquerque North, that go and work with the laboratory. But great presentation, and I appreciate you, the presentation, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you, Vice President.
Thank you.
Secretary Bozay.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia, I just wanted to say thank you and to echo what Vice President Garcia's comments were. You know, I appreciate all of that information from Dr. Mason, and not just the information, but also what you do in our community so much that even though I grew up here, I was not aware of all of the wonderful things that the lab does. So thank you. I know that the lab employment has meant many things to many people in my life, and I look forward to more partnerships and more collaboration. Thank you for everything.
Well, we need to do a better job telling that story, and you know, I hope that by having this presence in Santa Fe, we'll get a chance to reach out more, and you know, who knows, we'd be happy to host a school board once we get up and running.
We will absolutely take you up on that. Dr. Garcia.
Did Madam President, Dr. Gonzalez want to say something, or were you just had your hand up like this? Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering too. I couldn't tell whose hand was going up. One of
yes,
the
I didn't want to
doctors here.
Didn't want to cut her off. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mason, thank you for being here. Thank you for this presentation and the partnership. We've had a great partnership with the labs and the foundation. And it's our students are the beneficiaries, but also the teachers in terms of a lot of the professional development that we have had the opportunity to have. And we do have to come up with a better communication plan with our students. I agree with you, and I hope that we can forge a stronger partnership about communicating the wonderful careers that can be had at the lab with the high school diploma, with the right coursework, and also how we can continue to build out more internships. That is something that's real important to us. And we've been growing our internships in the Santa Fe Public Schools, and we want to expand more of them. We also have been, just for you to be aware of, working on more micro-credentialing, which there may be some micro-credentials that would also add to our students' employability at the labs. You know, great benefits close to home, being able to make more than a living wage, not have to leave, be with your family, and have a great connection and a great future. So thank you again for bringing this to our awareness and for being here, broadly bringing it to our awareness and for being here this evening.
Well, thanks for listening.
I also want to add my thanks and just say, you know, I worked as an economic and community development person for a long time. And as Mayor David Koss used to say, you know, without Los Alamos National Labs, we don't have much of a middle class in Santa Fe. And just for anyone who was paying even only cursory attention, there was a lot in that presentation. It's a very good presentation. Dr. Mason, I can barely say how appreciative I am that you want to come and share it with us, and that you know that the story needs to be told better, because it does, and things have come a long way. But just a couple things, you know, to pull out again, almost $500 million in contracts with local businesses in 1 year. There's almost nothing like Los Alamos National Lab for the economic impact in northern New Mexico. More than 1,000 new hires in a year, with about 75% of them being from the local area. Again, it's just a giant job creator. And the community commitment, I was paying attention to that. It was something when we were an economic development team for the city of Santa Fe, we paid a lot of attention to, but noticing that the community commitment, I appreciate you pointing out, that was going to be my question, that it's gone up from 2 million to 2.5 million. So a 25% increase in the past year. That sort of thing makes a huge difference to organizations working in economic development, workforce development, nonprofits. There's so much great work, and just, you know, it is always worth remembering that this national lab is the major employer, and certainly the one of the major, if not the major, economic forces in our area. It does support a middle class existence. My household, for one, people can do things like running for school board because they have, you know, LAML in the home and those salaries. But most of all, the science is so cool. And it is really inspiring, and, you know, keeping an eye on what it's all about, that we're exploring and learning about our world. And, you know, as you may have heard in public forum in lots of places, there's a lot of folks who are looking and reading at science and asking us to look and read at the science and read the data. And, you know, it feels like a nice connection to really celebrate the science that is what the lab ultimately is all about, the investigation, the discovery of our world, and the worlds beyond, because the Mars Perseverance landing was something that seemed to unify school children across this city like few other things have in a long time. So it's good to know, and please keep coming back and talking to us, and we want to help tell the story and celebrate science and all of the careers that make that core of the lab possible, and that scientific discovery, because it is there are a lot of moving parts, just as there are to the Santa Fe Public Schools, as we talk about a lot of the jobs and careers that we have here. It's worth expanding on all of that and really working to develop our ecosystem so that it can be more vibrant and interconnected. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we will move on, all inspired by science. We are now on Roman numeral 7, board announcements and follow-up. Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Garcia, I'd like to make a brief statement. At our last board meeting, we talked about grading the students on the technology skills they have acquired during this year of remote learning. In response to that, Deputy Superintendent Sink said that that was not possible because the technology is so integrated into the curriculum that it's hard to separate it out. That really made my heart sing, let me tell you. Back in 1998, that's a long time ago, when I was a faculty member in the Learning Technologies program at NMSU, I received a large grant to introduce teachers on how to integrate technology into their curriculum. With the core team, we developed model workshops that were then presented to groups of teachers by a little over 100 teachers around the state. And over that period of the grant, we worked with over 20,000 teachers. It was our goal that technology would not be a separate tool, but would be integrated into the curriculum. Unfortunately, we were a little ahead of our time. Few teachers had a computer in their classroom, and most computers were in a lab, so it was hard to truly integrate. This pandemic has forced us to adjust to remote learning. All teachers and students now have computers, so it is possible to truly integrate. I still would really like to see some sort of certificate, but I also don't want to add more work to the administrative staff or the teachers. I have looked up some that have been developed around the country and would be happy to share with your team, Dr. Garcia. As we move forward, I know that we will continue to use technology as a tool, and that is truly integrated into the curriculum, and that makes me really happy. So thank you all for what you do. And thank you, Dr. Garcia and staff. You've done an amazing job here.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez.
Sure.
It's inspiring to hear the connection through time too.
It was really our dream to do what you guys are doing now, but it was way too early.
The good ideas come back.
Yeah.
And the good work. Any other board announcements or follow-up? Okay, moving along to superintendent announcements and follow-up.
Madam President, I'm sorry, this is Ruby.
Yes, go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
I would just like to thank all the students and the teachers for their presentations. As Dr. Gonzalez did a great job to the entire staff in Santa Fe Public Schools, especially the kids. And I don't know where they learned how to dance like that, but they did a good job. But very good. Thank you all for what everybody does. Appreciate you. And thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Okay, I think we've got some big news from Dr. Garcia coming. Superintendent announcements.
Madam President, members of the board, my head's about to explode because I'm not sure what I can do and not. I understand that we were told that the grad rates would not be released until Friday and that districts would get them on Wednesday for us to review one last time. I've been getting texts throughout the night that they're posted publicly on the website. I just now heard from one of our reporters from, one of our local newspapers that the PED has said to them that we'll have access, but that they're not releasing numbers until Tuesday. I have graduation rates. I would love to share them because it's, it's pretty exciting news. So now I'm at a quandary as to what to do. So those of you out there on TV land that are watching this, I'm dating myself, Mr. Chavez and Dr. Suchant, Sarangarm, can somebody text me and let me know if that data is still embargoed or not? Because as I said, I just heard from one of our reporters that they talked to PED and that they would not be made public until Tuesday. So I'm going to move on with my presentation unless Mr. Chavez, you can enlighten me.
Yeah, I just checked
Let me know
Superintendent
what I
Garcia.
can say or not say.
I just checked their website, PED's website, and it's still posted, the 4-year graduation rate. So it is public information and still posted on their website.
So will the PED police come and take me away?
I don't think they can,
I
especially.
think the data is being pulled by the media and by other districts right now because it is released on their website. So unless Suchant feels, Dr. Sarangarm feels otherwise,
Dr.
I think it is
Sarangarm,
public
Are
information.
you online? Dr. Sarangarm?
Don't see him in the list.
See him on?
You can save it till the end if you want to double check, but I think Mr. Chavez is absolutely right. If it's up, reporters are going to pull it. We might as well hear it.
Yeah, it
But
is
you
a
could do the other one and
it is a cohort of 2020. What I know Dr. Sarangarm has told me before, we could release our data, not the state data. Maybe the state data is not on there. And so, right? And so I may not be able to tell you the comparison, which I wish I could because it's super exciting.
Well, in their spreadsheet, it does list every district in the state, and it also lists the state's graduation rate. So all the information's out there.
Okay, well then I'm going to give you the big headlines. We had intended to present it tonight, but we were told it was not going to be released. We had intended to do it last time, and then we weren't able to. So I'm going to give you the headlines. Board of Education, we will come back at the next board meeting, do a deep dive in the data and show you the trends and show you that we are exceeding the strategic plan once again. So are you ready for the cohort graduation rates for 1920 school year? These are kiddos that graduated in the middle of the pandemic last year. Capital High School, 83% graduation rate.
Wow.
Santa Fe High School. Well, let me go. I'm just going to kind of go all the way up. Eco, 84%. Santa Fe High School, 88%.
Wow.
Desert Sage Academy, 91%. Mandela, 99%. The district rate is 86%. The state average is 77%. One more time, the state average is 77%. Santa Fe Public Schools district rate, 86%. And in the largest school districts with 10,000 students and above, we are second only to Rio Rancho. I think by what, 2%, Mr. Chavez, or is it 3?
Yeah, technically it's less than 2%. I think it was like 1.7.
Below Rio Rancho Public Schools. That also has a higher SES than the Santa Fe Public Schools. We have far exceeded our goals in the strategic plan, the goals set in Opportunity Santa Fe. My hat's off to everyone, those at the high schools, but it's people at the middle schools and the elementaries that have built these skills for the kids, K through 12. I'm really choked up about it. It's so amazing for the kids. You know, it's great for the district, but it's amazing for the students that, you know, you graduate from high school, you're going to have a much greater quality of life than if you don't. And, you know, our goal is 100%. We're only 14% away from that, but it's data quality. It's tracking students, Dr. Sarangar, Mr. Chavez, the high school principals, the counselors, the registrars, everyone working together to support these kids last year. A real concerted effort to have all these kids on a grid, know what they were missing, know what they needed to get them through, and working with them. And I think that we're going to continue to see this level of success. It's taken us 5 years. You recall that 1 year that we took a dip when we tightened things up. And I told you it's going to be tough for a while, but we're going to bump back up. And I just couldn't be prouder of everyone's effort, the community, the tutors, everyone that supports us, Lannel, you know, the community college, everyone that works with our district. This is something that the entire community should be proud that the fruits of our labor are paying off. This is what it's all about, is our students graduating. So yay, go Team Santa Fe.
Wow.
Wow.
Amazing.
Congratulations to everybody for their hard work.
That's something.
Yes.
And that it's been proven.
And that we knew we could do it. We knew that we could. And I'm so disappointed that, well, that's an understatement to say I'm disappointed that we had the pandemic. I mean, that's been a horrific experience. But what I'm disappointed is that we lost our data because there was no large scale testing last year. This year, it looks like it's going to be a sampling, because I am convinced that that we would see a trajectory, but we are, as I said, we are tracking formative assessment. And, I'm anxious to see where we are at the end of the year. But that too, we were on this trajectory of success, really using data to target our work and leverage, the information that we have based on data to make adjustments for our students. And I just couldn't be prouder. It just takes every member of the team, all the departments, all working together, and it's paid off. And our students are the beneficiaries.
And congratulations to all those students. They graduated at it now almost seems like, oh yeah, that was the early edge of things. And we hoped for in-person graduation, and turns out there were so many of them that were graduating. And congratulations, Dr. Garcia, and to everyone. I do think Board Member Price got it right at the very beginning. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, that's what it's all about, right? All the 12 from pre-K all the way through is getting them through and getting them through and ready, to go on to college and career. And as I said, I couldn't be prouder. And, we're not going to rest as a district, till we see us at that 99, 100% graduation rate. And it is possible, but it's also with rigor and with relevance and building those relationships. It's not just about moving them through, that's unconscionable, but getting them through ready for college or career. And yay.
Superintendent, I want to take this opportunity to thank you and your staff for your incredible, and I mean incredible hard work. And I'm so glad that it's being acknowledged.
Thank you, Madam Price. I want to call you Vice President Price, Board Member Price.
Madam President,
Gonzalez, sorry, Dr. Gonzalez has had her hand up, and then I'll come to you, Vice President Garcia.
Yes, it is amazing. It's truly amazing that you got to 86% total district is amazing. But I'm curious as to what it was before.
I have all that data. I don't have it at my fingertips because that's another presentation. So we'll be able to show you next time we meet.
Growth.
The 5. Oh yeah, you'll see the growth, the trajectory. You'll see it broke. We have that data sliced and diced and disaggregated just about any way you want to see it. Ethnicity, special education, ELL, the whole 9 yards.
Great. I'd love to see that.
Free and reduced lunch.
Thank you. Thank you to you and to your staff. It's amazing. Thank you.
It's a team and community effort all the way through. And for the board, supporting us in our work and what we were trying to do and not giving up on us.
Thank you.
Vice President Garcia.
Just Madam President, everybody kind of just mentioned what I want to say. Just like, wow, congratulations, superintendent and everybody in the district that has passion, from anybody that works in that district to work for public schools throughout the nation, and because community and everybody else. But congratulations, very well said, to Garcia.
Thank you so much.
And I'm sure it's all in the presentation, but we did work to develop a strategic plan, and there are distinct targets, and you're very clear we're outpacing the strategic plan, which is what
Our graduation rate is, I think, 86% for the district. Yes, the only school district ahead of us is Rio Rancho.
Just so you know, Ms. Price, I think you're reporting the good news to somebody, but we can't hear you on the broadcast.
Madam President, if I may, one of the things.
You better know I'm sharing it. I'm sharing it all over the house.
That's good.
I know, it's one of those things. It's been hard to keep it under wraps. I've been so excited ever since I found out.
Vice President Garcia, go ahead.
Just one of the individuals I would like to thank some previous board members, as they know who they are. They actually started working on this and working this plan, and they also worked very hard, but just wanted to give them a shout out as well. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say. And, when Dr. Garcia began with the district and I began on the board shortly thereafter, which takes us back actually 4 years this meeting. And, she said it's going to take time. It's going to take everybody in the Santa Fe Public Schools. We need the community to come along, but we're going to get this right. We're going to get it with good data. We're going to, streamline a lot of things and make sure that the students and the families have the support they need, and the academics, the relevance. I so appreciate that. And I think this really is validation. Public schools and especially a district that is a pretty good size like this one, it's doesn't quite happen overnight, but it can happen quickly when you all pull together. And Dr. Garcia, this is really validation of a lot of things you talked about to the board many, many years ago. And I really appreciate that your predictions are coming true, just as they did when we took that data dip to get it right. And this is incredibly good news for the community of Santa Fe, and congratulations to absolutely everybody. Gosh, it would be great to be able to celebrate together, but instead we'll just have to, nerd out over data the data in the presentation.
That's the thing, we do nerd out over the data, and I can't wait to have the presentation and have the high school principals here and have them talk about, their approaches at their schools. And Mr. Chavez, he's been working with them, and Ms. Sink worked with the high school principals prior to Mr. Chavez. And it's just been, I think that it's having all the arrows going in the same direction. We talk about systems alignment and good data, and looking at continuous improvement. And Rio Rancho is also very well known for using quality tools and continuous improvement strategies and utilizing data. And we're nipping at their heels, we're catching up to them. And but they've been the leaders in that, over 10,000 students, and to be that, we're in striking range now. And so our next goal is to be number one in the large school district group. So
here we go.
Again, congratulations to everyone, kindergarten, pre-K on up, that have built these kids up. Everyone has their fingerprints, and we all should share in that success. So thank you to all our partners too. Okay, well, I'm going to move on and talk about reentry for a minute. And, as we're doing our best to communicate, but I think we're still missing the mark, because I think there's still a lot of misinformation. And as we look at continuous improvement, we've got to do better to communicate in a more effective way, that I hope people get our messages, because there is so much that I think gets lost in translation. And for example, we don't get to say we're all coming back in person if the state says you can only come back in hybrid. The board, you don't have that authority. I don't have that authority. The union doesn't have that authority. And so we are open to the level that we're allowed according to the guidelines. The CDC may have their guidelines. Dr. Fauci may have his opinion, but we still fall under the jurisdiction of not the federal government, but under the jurisdiction of the governor, the Department of Health, and the Public Education Department. And so there is this misconception that the board can wave a magic wand and bring everybody to school full time every day. You don't have that authority. And I know you don't, I know you know that, but I'm saying that to the public. We have collective bargaining, and we've talked about that. And could we draw a line in the sand and go to impasse and say you're all coming back, and go to arbitration, go to court, and expend resources, one, that we don't have. Secondly, we have a significant teacher shortage. We have an aging population. We have many teachers that are returned to work that could leave at any time. The divide that people say we have in the community now would be exacerbated. It does not meet our goals by what people perceive as, exerting our leadership and drawing a line in the sand. The approach that we've taken to come back with volunteers, I'm very proud that NEA Santa Fe has worked with us to say, as soon as you're vaccinated, you come back. When people talk about following the science, I was struck that Los Alamos National Labs is also waiting till they get a majority of their employees vaccinated to come back. These are scientists. So, I don't think it's unreasonable that teachers and educators, we say educators broadly, whoever is working with children, to be vaccinated. And I'm glad to see the federal government prioritizing them. The board passed a resolution Prior to that, NEA president myself sent a letter to the governor and Department of Health, but we don't control that. And so if people want to put pressure, that's where the pressure needs to be to prioritize educators in that 1B classification. The sooner we get them vaccinated, the sooner they need to come back. And you've heard our statement today. We can't vaccinate. We just, we've applied to do so. We just got a letter back from Department of Health and said, thank you. We'll let you know if we want you to vaccinate, but for now, and we'll keep you in mind if we need you to, but for now, we're doing our own. So we haven't even been given vaccines to vaccinate. And so some people seem to think that we can just wave a magic wand and vaccinate people. We cannot. We would love to. Trust me, we would. Every day, more and more teachers are coming back. Just from last week, we have 13 more. And, you know, so I think every week I ask families, if you haven't indicated that you want to come back, please let your schools know so that you go on a waiting list. There's no waiting list at the high schools. So, you know, we really would love to have more people come back. The fall. The secretary has intimated that from speeches that I've heard him make or commentary in superintendent's meetings, that he's optimistic we'll be back in-person instruction in the fall. He has not said it won't be hybrid. He hasn't said it'll be full in person. He has just said he thinks it will be instruction in the fall. Keep in mind, we won't make that decision. So some people think that, again, we would make the decision or not to bring back everybody. We will bring back whomever we can under the prevailing guidelines that are there in the fall. However, all things being equal, with 99% of our teachers wanting to be vaccinated, I would imagine that we will be open. I heard tonight in public forum misinformation, and that was that teachers have said now they're not going to come back unless the kiddos are vaccinated. That's not part of the MOU. That's nothing I have heard. That is not a policy decision. That's not, I don't know where that's coming from. It's the teachers, the educators, the people in the buildings with the kids. And as I said, it looks, anecdotally, I heard today of about 20 people that have been called that I know of that work with the schools to get their, or texted to get their vaccines. It's moving quickly. And the Johnson & Johnson only has one vaccine, one shot, 2 weeks. And so I think we're going to see people, or is it 3? I can't remember, but it'll be faster than the period of time with the 2-week vaccinations. So we're ready to go. Now, in planning for the fall, those schools are not going to decide individually whether or not they will come back. That is, as we look at what the state is requiring, hybrid, full in-person, whatever the state requires. But there might be individual tweaks by school. And so to better include and be transparent with our families, each school will have a reentry work group. The principal will ask for volunteers from the school advisory council and the PTA. They'll have members of the staff, and one of the district supervisors will support the principal, and they'll start having meetings in April and May for planning. So I am optimistic that we will be back in the fall, again, under the prevailing health orders. Now, this spring, we have seen students continue to change their minds on attending school in hybrid. It seems like the numbers are stabilizing, but I think that will continue to fluctuate. What will be interesting that nobody has talked about is if we have a majority of our staff back this spring and the families don't want to come back. So will the teachers be teaching hybrid from the school? I really don't know, because they haven't made it mandatory for the students to come back yet. Let's see here. And we've received positive feedback from students who say that it was great to be back, heartwarming stories that we've heard from principals about kiddos that are so happy that they're back in school, and we want to see more than we always have. And I just want to thank the principals for their leadership, assistant principals, and the teachers that have come back. They've done amazing work to make it work in this model. And before I move on, you might all want to make some comments about reentry at this point, or have any questions for me that you'd like me to clarify, that you think I could tune up a point here and there.
Yes,
Madam President.
Secretary Bose, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Garcia. I just would love to see during your weekly updates, which you're doing tonight, and perhaps even in the weekly bulletins that are being posted, some combination of here's how many teachers are coming back on a weekly basis, so that that's continuing to be updated from one week to the next, as well as, you know, sharing some more of those stories, the positive stories, whether that's in a press release or just a little blurb on social media. It doesn't have to be anything official, but we all want to see that. And you know, and we know that the more that people feel comfortable and have confidence in what's in place, that will help everyone to move forward to the goal of being back in the classroom.
Thank you, Ms. Bose.
Thank you.
Other comments from the board? Well, I appreciate the clarity, and you know, some of what I heard very clearly from you is that families should let schools know if they want to go back, that we are looking to be in school in person under the prevailing health guidelines in the fall. That reentry work groups will start at each school, supported by the district, planning for reentry in April and May, because there are a lot of details, as we know, with physical distancing and all of that. And just to reiterate what I think Secretary Bose said, which is really a very important thing, is that we need to build momentum. Schools are safe. We need to build confidence that schools are safe. It is so wonderful. There is such emphasis on vaccinating educators now and school staff. That's just really great news. Kids are good at wearing masks, extraordinarily good at that. You know, they are, I think, better than most of us expected. And schools are safe. And as that confidence grows, we will have more momentum to get back in person. And I think we all know how important that is. But I do also want to say that I feel very good that we have approached this as a community, that we have worked with the NEA and our teachers' unions and our staff. I'm acutely aware of the teacher shortage issue that you mentioned, Dr. Garcia, and that creating pitting folks against each other, forcing the issue, creating hostility, toxicity, would not have been a good approach, and that we needed to do this community as a community, and we continue to do this as a community. And I appreciate that. And you know, I think where one of the things came from in public forum is a report by KOB about teachers not wanting the vaccine. And I just want to say, and I speak as a former journalist, I love the press more than most people, but there is a current trend and a vested interest in controversy in media. So we need to be careful and, you know, again, work as a community and listen to each other. But the press is increasingly going to whip this up. We've seen that already with media trends lasting over any number of years. And, you know, I think our local press has done a better job at keeping a cool head. But anyway, I'm very appreciative. And I think, you know, this is one of those calls to the community. Let's build momentum. Call your school if you want to go back. Encourage people to know that schools are safe and we can do this.
May I speak?
Yes, please. Go ahead, Board Member Price.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Johnson & Johnson is 1 shot, the Moderna is 2 shots, and Pfizer is 2 shots. That's all.
Thank you. Yes. Dr. Gonzalez. I can't hear you. Yeah, you're muted.
Madam President, members of the board, Garcia, I'm really glad that you clarified this for the public. I mean, we know that the directive is coming from the state and from the governor, but I've gotten calls from some parents that have said, you know, been really kind of down on the teachers because they haven't wanted to come back or whatever. And I'm really just really glad that you clarified that. And we need to make sure that people know that it's not the teachers that are not wanting to come back. It's the state and the governor. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, another piece of news that hit us late tonight and caught us off guard because our understanding is the state was moving in one trajectory, and I think it'll be welcome news to our community. That has to do with athletics. Now, I've shared this before, but again, high school games will start next week. Volleyball, soccer, cross country, and football. Middle school sports also begin next week. All sports have a condensed season. So this was, I was going to say, fans are not allowed at these games or practices per NMAA and PED. And about 2 minutes before I was starting my announcements, it was tweeted out that fans will now be allowed. They'll have to follow social distancing rules, but they will be allowed. Mr. Chavez will have to scramble and work with the high school principals and everyone to be ready for the first game on Monday. Mr. Chavez, do you want to add anything to that? And are you still going to live stream?
Yeah. Yes, we still are going to live stream all home games. You'll find those streams on sportsprimo.com, and the NFL states in the press releases that it's going to be at a reduced capacity, and every county will be, the capacity will be based off of every county color. Right now we're in yellow, and right now it does state that no indoor fans will be allowed. However, 25% of outdoor capacity will be allowed. So again, we'll have to monitor our county's color, and then it does fluctuate whenever you make that transition upwards. And of course, if you reverse into the red, then no fans will be allowed.
And then my notes say all of this is subject to change. And so just so families know, I know that we say something and then it changes because the guidance continues to change and evolve. I think we're on toolkit now 17, and there's a new one coming out next week with the new updates. So we just have to learn to roll with the punches and be flexible. I'm not going to give the legislative update. It's lengthy and the night is getting long. We will email that to you, and we can post it with a link to the update on my bulletin tomorrow for the public. Update, though, that you should be aware of, Board of Education and the public, is an update on parents opting in on the annual spring assessments. The PED is trying to get a good sampling of families that want students to be assessed this spring. Now that is if they get their waiver approved by the federal government. They'll know in another couple of weeks. Associate Superintendent Debbie Rael headed a district work group to collect information from families. You may have seen this information already, those of you that are parents. We will be asking you if you want to opt in. It's not an opt-out. And there will be a date by when you will need to let us know. I don't have it in my notes, but I believe it's the 10th of March. I believe, is that correct, Ms. Romero?
Yes, the 10th of March.
Okay, and I'm skipping over a lot of this. Is there something else I should say? Because there's a lot of words here and I just don't want to read them all.
I think you covered it. It's information is going out to families. It's been posted. Families will contact the school site if they're interested in the state assessments. And then we will give those numbers to the PED on a couple of days after March 10th.
And parents, you don't need to worry which test. Does my kid take iStation or AMASA or whatever? It's just all you need to just let us know is, I want to take the spring assessment. The state gave all the names of the tests. I think that's confusing for parents because we have to sort that out ourselves. So I say to the community, don't worry about which test, because we know which test your child needs to take. Your issue is whether or not you want them to take that assessment. Please know, though, that they will have to be at the school site when they take it. They won't be able to take it from home. Okay. Esports update. We've talked about that before. And Desert Sage Academy and Capitol High, with support from the district, developed their own esports team. Santa Fe High School and Early College Opportunities High School are in the process of developing a combined team. And Capitol High and Desert Sage are currently competing in NMAA sanctioned esports. And we're just super excited about having esports teams now at the high school. One more way for kids to be engaged. In terms of recognizing other learning, right, and everything that kids have learned through the pandemic, next board meeting, we actually have the certificates made, but I would like to see what you suggested, Dr. Gonzalez, so that maybe we might tweak what we have. And it's going to be pretty easy for us to do because of electronics, right? And being able to get these out to students and signed by the board. So we'll bring them to you for your review at the April 1st board meeting, as well as a resolution. And we're very excited about that. And, I think, the old term, a rose is a rose, right? I think the same is true of remote learning. And what some students are getting in some districts is not what students are getting in the Santa Fe Public Schools. And I can tell you by the presentations that Dr. Ryan, Dr. Weaver, myself, and others have made on national panels and even internationally, Santa Fe Public Schools ranks at the top in terms of quality of remote learning. Now, can we address, connectivity issues for everybody, the social emotional needs and personalities of students? We know it's hard on kids, but the creativity and what kids are getting in our district is pretty exciting. I'd also like to acknowledge Shannon Palermo, Executive Director of the Rail Yard Park Conservancy, and Elena Kayak. This evening, we'd like to acknowledge the work of their work. One of our valued community partners, the Rail Yard Park Conservancy, is a local nonprofit that provides community stewardship and advocacy for horticultural care, educational programming, and public art in the rail yard. And here they are. In January 2021, the Conservancy was one of 7 municipalities nationwide out of 100 applicants to be awarded a Safe Routes to Parks grant by the Safe Routes National Partnership. Conservancy, alongside other community partners, including the Santa Fe Metropolitan Planning Organization, Santa Fe Public Schools Sustainability Office, Bike Santa Fe Conservation Trust, and others, will work closely with the Safe Routes National Partnership staff to develop an action plan aimed at improving safe and equitable connectivity between parks and trails for our South Side schools. This project will complement and amplify the work associated with the current, as of Monday, March 1st, a multi-year Safe Routes to School grant. The Conservancy and their partners will receive training, individualized consultation, technical assistance, and a grant of $12,500 to begin implementing a Safe Routes to Parks action plan. And I just want to say this is going to get more students out and out safely. I think it's wonderful for families. Ms. Palermo is here today to hear our heartfelt thanks for including our South Side School, which is the focal point of this. Shannon, we appreciate your partnership with our schools and for working with our sustainability office. And thank you, Elena, for keeping this always in our consciousness. So yay.
And congratulations. That's an exciting grant.
Thank you. And the Santa Fe Public Schools Native American Student Services receives a grant to help Native American students. We continue to get fabulous grants due to the leadership of Nancy Davis and her team. Santa Fe Public Schools Native American Student Services received a $5,000 Native American Relief Fund grant from the New Mexico Foundation. In addition, $6,500 COVID Relief Grant was received from the Nota Begay the Third Foundation. These funds will be used to aid students and families with rental assistance, emergency utilities, grocery cards, Wi-Fi connectivity, and meeting basic needs. Both funds were launched to help students with the impacts from COVID-19. And all these sorts of efforts, I believe, is why we have the sort of graduation rates that we have, right? I mean, you've got to look at kids holistically and what they need. And then Partners in Ed, congratulations and thank you. They raised funds for T-Mobile Wi-Fi access. And our congratulations and thanks to Ruth Ann Greeley, Executive Director of Partners in Ed, for presenting the district with a check for $19,961 for T-Mobile Wi-Fi access costs. The reimbursement is for the T-Mobile Wi-Fi hotspots distributed to Santa Fe Public School students. They asked us at the beginning of the year, what could we do to help? Well, we need more access and connectivity, and their members stepped up to the plate. A lot of those was from personal contributions. So our thanks to Partners in Education. And then Virtual District Competitive STEM Fair, that is going on, will be going on. It will engaging 446 students in grades 3 through 8, February 18th. It ends tomorrow, March 5th. This year, the district is utilizing a new virtual fair platform known as Z-Fairs. Z-Fairs enable students to showcase their technology skills, present their work, and collaborate with regional science fair professionals. A special thanks to Sherry Kaufman from the Curriculum and Instruction Department and Mr. Amory Martinez of the Digital Learning for their support in this endeavor. An additional thank you to the Santa Fe Alliance for Science for supporting and celebrating student achievement and its cultivation of love and excitement for STEM engagement. Results will be posted and announced at the upcoming Virtual Innovation Expo on March 11th. And of course, I miss being at the convention center and seeing all the projects, but I'm so happy that they were able to pull it off remotely. The Santa Fe Innovation Expo STEAM Powered Learning. Again, March 11th from 4:30 to 7 p.m. Innovation Expo STEAM Powered Learning. Go to the district's website at sfps.info to participate. Students will be showcasing innovative and creative projects, and community partners will share enthusiasm and expertise through virtual interactive sessions. Those of you from the board that have been there in the past, you know what great fun it is. So you want to join us on September 11th. And we have a very short video from Computer Science in the New Mexico Educational Forum. The Computer Science in New Mexico was held on February 24th. Santa Fe Public Schools was recognized for Computer Science Ready by 2025 program. During the forum, this video was shared showcasing Computer Science Ready 2025 program. This ties to the resolution, President Noble, that you brought to us and we worked on. And the event brought together 60 educators, administrators, and policymakers. And so Dr. Weaver or Dr. Ryan, take it away. I know you're there somewhere.
Dr. Garcia, this is Dr. Weaver. I just need 1 second here. If you have another announcement, go ahead.
I have two more, so I'll do them and then we can end with the video. I want to commend Sue O'Brien and Jen Jefferson on the bullying routing form. It may not sound like a big deal, but you recall that the board passed Board Policy 331, bullying and harassment, to be in compliance with a new statute. And a new form was created. We've got a link to it in English and Spanish, and an administrative investigation form. There's been training and support to all principals, assistant principals, counselors, and we will bring you a full report in the future. But anti-bullying, bullying is real, and it's important that we are proactive with that. And I just want to take my hats off to them. When you see the work they've done on it, it's really spectacular. And we also have a video clip from Teacher Tips Tuesday, beginning on March 2nd. Students and families are receiving learning tips from teachers on Tuesdays to reinforce students' independent practice. In 1-minute video clips to be posted on school social media platforms, teachers will quickly demonstrate their creative, engaging, and unique learning tips. This is a joint effort of the Equity, Diversity, and Engagement Department, Parent Academy, and Curriculum and Instruction. And so you might want to catch those Teaching Tips Tuesday. So it's all yours, Dr. Weaver and Cody. And that concludes my announcements tonight.
Whatever field our students choose to pursue.
Dr. Garcia, I want to make sure you could hear that.
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
As adults, their ability to succeed will increasingly depend on learning computer science and STEM skills, which includes problem solving, block coding, and design and computational thinking. Our goal to craft and provide a transformative learning environment that models the global community, which our students will eventually become part of, was created through a school board resolution known as CSR 2025, or Computer Science Ready 2025.
Computer science is not just coding and writing programs. Those things are all fun, but that's certainly not everything to do with computer science. If you think about the video conferencing that we're doing now, the online learning management systems, all those had to be designed and built by somebody and maintained as well. The Wi-Fi and the wired infrastructure that you're using to connect to the internet right now, that's all part of computer science too. It's not just the code, it's also the hardware. The software is fun too, right? The games and the apps that you play and check on your phones when you have your camera turned off during class, right? That's computer science too. Anything where you are using software that has been designed by people to create new things is involved with computer science, right? Somebody had to create those programs so that you could then do that editing and creation.
The Communities of Practice concept has paired experts in the field of computer science with teachers at the middle school level to allow for a safe space to explore, learn new concepts, and then have support throughout the way. We firmly believe that if we can help our middle school students learn how to think like a computer science and apply those problem-solving skills, when they move on to high school, they'll be better prepared to learn the programming and application of computer science.
The CSR 2025 program will lead every school through a process beginning with a basic understanding of computer science, moving to the implementation of CS concepts in every classroom, and ending with transformation, in which we see CS skills and concepts as an integral part of each classroom. The key to the success of CSR 2025 is that each school develops its own plan as a response to the strengths and needs that exist. Every school is given agency to develop a plan that addresses their community.
So it's CS Week, and I'd like to talk about my relationship with computer science. So while it's been a decidedly short one, it's definitely been a relationship that has grown over time and has impacted me immensely. It's altered, in a good way, my approach to problems and problem solving. My key example of this would be the essay that I wrote for the University of Chicago, which ultimately led to me getting a full ride scholarship there. The university is known for its strange, interesting, and quite frankly intimidating prompts, and so being a glutton for punishment, I chose one of the harder ones, and that was what can actually be divided by 0. Prior to computer science, I probably
would have gone for another prompt, or I would have taken some strenuous philosophical approach that ultimately didn't make sense. But with the lens you gain from being a programmer and being exposed to computer science, I looked at the prompt and I saw that they spelled out the word 0 rather than having it as the integer value of 0. And so as a programmer, I look at this word and I think, I can break it up, because with strings or array of characters or words, as non-programmers would look at them, each character in that word or string or array has a corresponding ASCII value. And so that just showcases the creative approaches that CS can allow you to take in problem solving.
Learning more about computer science is an incredibly valuable thing now that so much of our lives are involved in and dependent on computers. Plus, the average starting salary for a computer science major right out of college right now is $70,000 a year. So you might want to consider it. Give it a try. I guarantee that you'll learn something new during CS Ed Week.
The objectives of CSR 2025 truly represent an innovation in education. We aim to provide high-quality professional development, mentorship, and coaching in order to integrate computer science standards across our K-12 curricula. And we will prepare all our students for computer science and STEAM careers. In other words, CSR 2025 will prepare all SFPS students to thrive and be competitive in a global economy.
That is so exciting. And now I really miss the fair, but it's the year that it is, but it's so great to see this really blooming. And thank you to Dr. Ryan and Dr. Weaver and everybody who has worked so hard to make this thing real. And, I think I said in our last meeting, we didn't quite know how relevant it was all going to be until a pandemic hit. We knew it was important, and they are good jobs. And I love Brian Smith there. Anyway, that's a really lovely video. Thank you.
And if I may, Madam President, just kudos to you too for bringing that resolution to us. I think that was one of your first ones as a board member. And what it did, computer science probably, would have, we had it, but it wasn't as systemic. It wasn't as intentional. It wasn't as integrated with a plan and the scaffolding and the scope and sequence and what we're doing, from kinder all the way through 12th grade, and all of how this ties into internships and micro-credentialing and integrated into the curriculum. It brought more intentionality to the work and got incorporated in the strategic plan. So thank you to you for giving us that push that we needed.
I appreciate that. And it was, of course, the team and the community, because it was brought to me by somebody who was really an advocate for this type of thing. But it's just interesting how calling out, naming something can also matter. And there was a lot going on already, but as I've watched this really unfold and bloom, it's occurred to me that it's organized it in some ways, and it's named it under an umbrella that did provide some momentum and organization and validation to a lot of the folks that were doing the work already, but they got a little bit of a spotlight through that. And it's very interesting, of course, to be a board member and to find the balance between what you can do, what you can't, where PED plays the superintendent's roles. But this does feel like an area that it worked. And we were able to pass a resolution as a board with the guidance of the team and the staff and the real thinkers about computer science, and to bring something and organize it into blooming in a way that it probably would not have done without that structure and initiative. So
I think it's a textbook example of policy and administration and collaboration, where we collaborated on the policy, but the policy was driven by the board and then executed by admin, right? And the schools and whatnot in terms of how we make it work, but how I think a board of education can have profound influence and impact on what happens in schooling and why great boardsmanship matters. And so, yeah, I think it's just a wonderful textbook example of seeing how a policy can be so powerful in it really impacting children's lives, right?
Great.
Anyway, thank you all.
And are we going to watch one of the teacher tips?
Yes. Cody Denarski.
I saw it on social
Thank you.
media. It was making the rounds on social media, and this is also a wonderful new feature.
Go ahead, Mr. Denarski.
Here's my tip for you. Help your child set up a space for learning that they will be successful at. I suggest a desk or a table, somewhere where there's space for the materials, but it's not distracting like a bed or a couch. It's very easy to want to take a nap during the school day if you're learning on a bed. It's also helpful to have a learning space in a quiet part of the house, so those distractions like the TV, video games, siblings who are also on a break aren't interrupting the learning environment. I hope that helps.
And today's tip is on how to help your child work independently at home. As a mom myself, sometimes when you're helping your child, you want to give them the answer. Before you do that, think of helping your child in the following ways. So number 1, let them have time to think of the answer. Number 2, sometimes saying the question in a different way may help them understand the question. Number 3, if they need more help, show them how to find information in their books or through their notes. And lastly, I want to say thank you to all parents for working with your children during this time to help them continue to learn.
Very nice. Good tips and so snappy.
More tips coming your way every Tuesday.
That's great. And any questions from the board for the superintendent on her announcements? I think we're at the end. Okay, we will move along on our agenda to, I believe it's our consent agenda, our action items. Starting with the consent agenda. And I guess we should vote on, consent agenda items 1 and 2 and vote on the minutes for February 18th separately. Any questions on the budget adjustment requests or contracts over 50,000?
I move approval.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonzalez. I'll go ahead and second, and as ever, there's something interesting to point out in our contracts, which in this case includes that we are reducing one contract because CES is unable to provide nurses to staff vacancies, which tells us, some of these shortages we talk about are very, very real, and nursing staffing is incredibly stretched, and we appreciate those that we have and how hard they have to work to cover over those cracks in the system. Okay, we have a motion and a second on consent items 1 and 2, budget adjustment request and contracts over $50,000. Any further discussion? We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Vice President Garcia.
Yes.
Secretary Bose.
Yes. Yes.
Board Member Price.
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Okay, and the president votes yes. We've approved items 1 and 2. Now we have the minutes on the consent agenda for February 18th, 2021.
Madam President, I move we approve the minutes from the February 18th, 2021 meeting.
And I second.
Thank you, Secretary Bozay and Board Member Price. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on that. Vice President Garcia.
Yes.
Secretary Bozay.
Yes.
Board Member Price.
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
And the President votes yes.
Madam President.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Were we voting on that separately because not all board members were present?
We were, to give a chance for abstentions, but nobody
Okay.
abstained.
Okay. Just checking.
Thank you. Okay, action item B, the New Mexico School Board Association's Excellence in Student Achievement Award nominations. And we have a bunch of nominations. Actually, if we could not screen share at this stage, maybe just eliminate the presentation, in part because there's been, the team has put together a really great set of nominations. And I would suggest that we form a committee of 2 board members, because that's all we can have without having a quorum, to do a final selection on these nominations. And, you know, maybe we could consider a number. There's one that's free, the rest are $40 that we would be charged for. For what I've seen, and Board Member Price and Vice President Garcia could weigh in here, but these are incredibly worthwhile in showing the appreciation from the board of folks who have worked hard. I'd like to see us do a lot of these. Everyone has worked, you know, double time, overtime, you name it, this year. But I do think that we have a long enough list at this stage that, and we might want to have a couple board members work on this, and I would love to work on finalizing it for the board. I don't know if that sounds reasonable to everyone. We have a looming deadline.
Madam President, I'd be happy to help you with that.
That's wonderful. So does that seem all right to the other board members? Any objections there or adjustments to the plan you'd like to make?
Madam President, this is Rudy. I'm fine with it.
Okay. And what I'd love to do is make sure that if any board members have names that they would like in the mix, that we get those to Alma, and I will ask that Alma check in with everyone to make sure if there's anyone in particular you'd like to see on the list, that we have that name. So I think that's an agreement. Dr. Garcia, do you agree? Do you feel we need to make a motion and vote on this, or are we good?
I think it probably wouldn't hurt just to go ahead and just take the motion that you agree this is how you're going to do it. So that way the committee can proceed and work with staff to get those in next week.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we'll have 2 board members discuss these nominations and get them in on time with the deadline, and work through our board secretary to make sure that we have everybody's names on the list.
How many nominees do you have?
That is a good question.
And I would say that the nominees still have to be like prioritized and vetted. We asked for people to submit names, and that's what we would work with the board committee.
Right now, it looks like there's 21 on the list.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
21 are on the current list, and we'd love to leave room for you, Ms. Price, or anybody else to add names.
Mm-hmm.
How many are you going to award?
Well, that's something we could decide. So at this stage, if we awarded all 21, it would be $800. So I don't know if anybody has any feelings about that, if we want to set a range. What feels good? Or I'd go ahead and say, that we can leave it up to, we'll discuss with the superintendent, what's comfortable there and leave it up to the two board members and superintendent to decide that. Does that seem?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So we'll make that the motion. Reasonably clear. Committee of two board members, the superintendent will decide how many to award and go through the list. Is there a second?
Second.
I second.
Okay. We'll go ahead and say that board member Price seconded that, and we'll do a roll call vote. Vice President Garcia.
Yes, I would just like the committee just to look at maybe eliminating a certain amount of students, and everybody's going to start applying. But that's just my recommendation.
So this is staff members, Vice President Garcia, that we're recognizing for contributing to student achievement.
Okay, right, I forgot. But yes, I'm for the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Secretary Bozay.
Yes.
Board Member Price.
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
And the president votes yes. Okay, thank you. Last but not least on our action items, we have the resolution on community schools, which I want to thank Dr. Garcia, Crystal Ibarra, and anybody else for the white paper and the work on this resolution. It really, to me, seems to be the only thing that makes sense, is that we have a framework for our community to wrap around and support students and families and educators in the public school system, because of course everyone shares in the success of our public schools, as we will no doubt start to see as we have these incredible graduation rates. And I hope, and I think the pandemic this is really, an extension of reimagining and reinventing education. People have asked, what happened to that? And the fact is, Dr. Garcia and I have often discussed how we've reimagined, perhaps in even more profound ways than anybody thought possible in this pandemic. And we appreciate the community's support. And I guess I'd say I hope that this provides a frame and starts to spotlight and name something that is absolutely necessary in terms of the community supporting the public schools, and that we can inspire more of that going forward. Dr. Garcia, anything you would like to say on this?
I think that and again, I want to acknowledge Crystal Ibarra, who's here, who's our Deputy Chief Community Engagement Officer, and other staff that worked on the white paper as well, and worked with you on the resolution. Thank you for bringing this forward. I think it's another one of those landmark legacy resolutions. And we have community schools in varying degrees in all of our schools. I think it's a big tent resolution in that it recognizes the 4 pillars that are recognized not only by the work done by the Learning Policy Institute, but also the legislature and the larger groups in the state that worked on community schools. It does not exclude whether we're talking communities in schools, capital CIS, or the community schools that are funded through the state or that may be funded privately rather, or that we decide that we're going to fund out of new monies that may come to the district. It's all about how does a community support our students and our families to maximize learning opportunities and free ed teachers, right, to be able to work with their kids and teach their kids and not have to worry about, well, can somebody get them to the food bank? Can we make sure the kids have clothes? Do kids need tutoring after school? Are they latchkey kids? All the various needs, and they're so unique in every school. And the other thing I love about this resolution is that it recognizes the district's commitment to community schools and that every school is different, that a cookie cutter approach, what is needed at El Dorado may not be what's needed at Santa Fe High to what is needed at Cesar Chavez and so on. And it is based on research. It is based on best practices. And it recognizes that if we address the needs of the whole child, we will continue to see improvements in educational outcomes. And it also recognizes, things that have been around for a long, long time that hold true in terms of frameworks like Maslow's hierarchy of need, right? And that your basic fundamental needs must be met before you can deal with, higher order needs, and as we move to self-actualization. So I think it's, again, one of those resolutions like the computer science resolution that will bring more intentionality to the work. And again, it's a big tent policy as well. Yes.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board?
Madam President, this is Rudy.
Hello.
Hello. I would just like to, this is actually a great resolution. Communities and schools, Julie and her entire team, all the volunteers that they have for communities and schools, and I know my district, they actually totally help out. What a great resolution. And I just want to mention that for the record. Appreciate them and everything they do, all the volunteers as well as community and schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam Chair, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Garcia, I'm a big fan of community schools and I'm really happy to see this resolution. So thank you for putting it together. It seems to have everything that a community school is supposed to have. So I appreciate that.
What's the pleasure of the board here?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Okay. Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Dr. Gonzalez with the second. We'll go ahead. Well, actually, should say any further discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Vice President Garcia.
Yes.
Secretary Bozay.
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Board Member Price.
No.
Okay, and the president votes yes. We did have it pass. Thank you again, Ms. Ibata, Dr. Garcia, and everybody who has worked on it thus far. And I hope we get even more momentum going forward. Appreciate all that you do.
Thank you, Madam President, for bringing it forward and members of the board for passing this.
Thank you. Okay, we are now on board discussion and possible action. There are no items there. Anything anybody wants to mention? Bring up for future meetings? Okay, and finally, advanced planning. There is a citizens review committee on March 10th, next Wednesday. And a tentative study session listed for next Thursday. Dr. Garcia, do you feel we need that study session?
Madam President, no, I don't, because we, and members of the board, we don't have any definitive data information to really bring to you in terms of forecasting budget. And this is a very unusual budget, a lot of moving parts and a lot of new factors and things that are still being analyzed. So much would be conjecture. I don't think it would be good use of our time. So in consultation with our CFO, we decided that we would forego that meeting.
Okay. So the CRC will meet on the 10th. We will not have a study session on the 11th. The CRC, I assume, will decide whether that meeting on March 24th is needed. And we will be back together as a board almost in a month on April Fool's Day. No fooling. April 1st will be our next board meeting, tentatively an executive session with the regular meeting at 5:30. Any other questions, comments on advanced planning?
Madam President, I do believe also, and I don't know if this is relevant to advanced planning, but that there is the New Mexico School Board Association event next Thursday evening, the virtual event that I think it was also encouraged that we participate in that since our study session is not taking place.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that is the Region 2, which is our region school board members and superintendents meeting, 5 to 7 p.m. next Thursday, March 11th.
Yes.
Thanks for bringing that up, Secretary Bose. Anything else on advanced planning? Okay, well, I think that's a wrap. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. It's great to have a full board. Great to hear you, Board Member Price. And yes, we are adjourned.
Thank you. And thank you, President Noble. Thank you for sharing a good meeting.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you all at another board meeting in April.
Okay.